All right, it's just me this week. I don't know if anybody noticed. I'm going to go off on a tangent before we even start, but I was in the grocery store today, and sure enough, out in front of the Starbucks in the store, they're advertising all their pumpkin spice stuff and all that good jazz. So, made myself the first pumpkin spice latte of the season because I am a basic bitch. Now, that aside, that also tells me that we are ready for spooky season. Like the fall is starting. Scary stuff is going to start popping up more and more as we inch closer and closer to Halloween. We're what, 2 weeks from October, or sorry, September, which means 2 months from Halloween. So it should be a fun ride. There's going to be more and more horror movies as we get closer and closer. Since I'm by myself, I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about a bunch of stuff. I'm just going to talk about two things, and I'll start with the newer, more relevant thing, which is Evil on Paramount Plus. Unfortunately, this week was the series finale of Evil. Now, Evil was one of the top rated shows on Netflix. It was doing great on Paramount Plus, just like in the top 10 across the streaming charts, especially for Netflix, where it's a season behind. If you have Paramount Plus, you get the whole thing. If you're on Netflix only, then you're a season behind. But I think I've talked about it before, but I want to take a minute to talk about it now that it's over and just kind of break it down a little bit. Number one, I'm really sad. Like I'm really disappointed the show's coming to an end. There's no reason for it to have ended at this point. What is nice is that Paramount knew they were going to be ending the show, so they gave Robert and Michelle King, who are the creators, they gave them 4 episodes to tie everything up. So it does have an ending. It's for what it is, it's a relatively satisfying ending. Like I said, I really wish that this had gotten more time and more love and really gotten what it deserved. But they did a good job. Now, the gist of this show is you have this group of people, and they're called assessors for the Catholic Church in New York City. And their job is to basically assess people to see if they're possessed, if they need an exorcism, if they need to be, need intervention from the church in any way, shape, or form. And Mike Coulter, who played Iron Fist in the MCU, um, is our main character. He's a priest. He's phenomenal. He's big and imposing. Like as Luke Cage, he was great because I mean he's just a big, strong dude. But he really, you know, he's a very kind and good person here as a priest. They kind of veer away from it in later seasons, but the reason that he became a priest in the first place is he suffered from sex addiction, and so that played a lot into the first season, especially. And like I said, it kind of fades away as the show goes on, or at least they talk about it less as the show goes on. But that was his reason for becoming a priest. So he's not perfect, and the whole point of the show is that nobody on the show is perfect. His fellow assessors, he has a scientist friend played by Asif Manvi, who is fantastic. He is very dry, very smart, very witty, and he is the scientific mind evaluating what's going on, what people are doing, can this be fake X, Y, and Z way? And so he's great. And then our other like real main character is Katya Herbers. She is she's fantastic. Like, I've got a little bit of a crush on Katya Herbers. She's beautiful in a very mom next door kind of way. Like she's just very natural. She's another imperfect character. Like she's married. You definitely see it as the early seasons go on. She, I don't know if falls in love is the right word, but she definitely has feelings for our priest whose name is David Acosta. Her character's name is Kristen Bouchard. And so, they have really, really great chemistry. Like all you want as this show goes on is for these two to get together and be happy and, live happy ever after, whatever. And I don't want to spoil the end of the series and say whether they end up there or not, but I might get into some spoilers as this goes, so be ready. Asif Manvi's character Ben, the scientific guy, they go through all this stuff. They go and what they come to find out is there's one specific character that's kind of the big bad through the whole thing. His name is Leland Townsend, and he's played by the amazing Michael Emerson, who played Ben Linus on Lost. He is a total shit on the show. He is every bit as evil and conniving as he was on Lost, but he's funnier. And that's the thing about the show. So while the subject matter, is possession and all these things, they walk this really great line of being a little silly. And some of the stuff is tongue in cheek and all that. And then some of the stuff is kind of scary, like the stuff they're dealing with is demons and all that. And so Leland Townsend is like the human mouthpiece for basically for the devil's side. And what we come to find out as the show goes on, they have what they call the 60, and there's these 60 different houses across the world. And these 60 different houses represent different sects of um, kind of Satan's church, right? And that's basically their mission. As they go on, they start to find this whole thing out, and they have to kind of shut down this organization. Um, but the show, like, yes, there is this great underlying plot that they have to keep working towards and fight against, and a bad guy to defeat, and they've got to fight the devil and all this stuff, and save the world from evil and all that. But like the real magic in the show is the characters and the people. So even though Leland Townsend is an awful, awful person, and obviously would be if he is, an agent of the devil, but he has his moments that are almost redeeming. Um, Christine Lottie plays Kristen's mom, and half the time she sucks, and half the time she's great. She goes through some stuff when her run ends in season 4. She's definitely missed. Like, she has a great arc through the end of the show. Her Kristen's like actual husband. He's like probably the most bland character there is on the show, and I think that's by design. Like, I've seen the actor's name is Patrick Bramall before. And he's a fine actor. He does great. It's just they didn't really make his character particularly interesting, and I don't think they wanted to. I feel like when you look at um the other characters in the show and what they need to do and the way they need to build around each other, he's sort of an ancillary character. He's more of a person that gets in the way of things going the way they're supposed to than anything else. One of the real highlights of the show for me that always makes me laugh. So Kristen has 4 daughters, and they are all, I mean, looking at them, they're somewhere between 11 and 16 total between the 4 of them, maybe 10 and 16. And they go through their own things, and they're growing up in the background, and then Leland Townsend finds out about them, so he's harassing them a little bit and all this. But one of the things that I absolutely love that is so funny, you get them all sitting in one space, and Katja Herbst, Kristen Bouchard starts talking to her daughters, and she'll ask a question, and one will start talking, and another one will start talking, and then all of a sudden they're all talking, and they're just talking over each other. It's just pure chaos.
Have you guys ever noticed that when you all talk at the same time, no one can understand you?
Wait, this is what happened when I did
All right. Can we turn it down a notch? It's a little too much daughter energy going on right now.
But like, it feels so real. Like the Kings did a great job putting this show together. Some of the things that make the show particularly amazing is that it's all, or most of it, is practical effects. As a matter of fact, there's one actor that basically plays every demon. So when a demon comes on screen and they're all, big and weird and scary looking, or even if they're like a kind of like a night terror demon in somebody's room, that's all one guy who put on all the makeup and did all the stuff, and he is incredible. One thing that's been really fun in this 4th season, if you decide to watch it and get there to the 4th season, if you're watching it on Paramount Plus, at the end of most of the episodes, they have a kind of making of season 4 kind of montage thing where they go over what they did, and it's actually really informational and really informative. One thing another thing that was really cool was the way they shot the show. And, if you watch a lot of TV shows or even movies, they're kind of shot from above and the camera points down. And the reason is most sets, especially when they're indoors, don't have a ceiling. That's where all your lighting is and your cameras are and all that jazz. This show to, build tension and make it feel different from everything else. They actually shoot down and up. So a lot of the camera work is actually coming, up towards the faces, and then you can see the ceilings of these places behind them. So when they're in the churches and they're in all these places, they feel big and wide open, and it's just a really neat, different, subtle thing that makes the show feel really different. You know, as the show goes on, it's just these people, these three main characters getting closer, Leland Townsend kind of closing in on them. At some point in season, I can't remember if it's season 3 or season 4 now, but they take one of Kristen's eggs because she's definitely a specific target for whatever reason of Leland Townsend. Like, he's very infatuated with her. They take her egg, and he artificially inseminates that egg, puts it in another woman. She gives birth to a baby that is the Antichrist. That's the whole point of the thing. And so that all this madness ensues around it. And it's just, I don't know, it's a surprisingly fun show. In a lot of ways, it's similar to Supernatural. Supernatural, you had the two brothers and their relationship was really special. In this one, you have the three main characters and their relationship is special. These three people, they love each other. Like, they come to be so close and they go through all these things together. Like, Ben is part of Kristen's family. The daughters call him Mr. It's not Mr. Wonderful, but they have a nickname for him that is like, he's amazing. He comes and fixes their plumbing. He does stuff around the house. Like, he just helps out. And it's not weird. It's not creepy. He's just a good friend who is a man who is not dating their mom. Like, there's no feeling like that at all, but they love each other. And then the relationship between Kristen and David is a whole other thing. Like, the sexual tension between these two is incredible. Like, if you told me when this show was over that they decided they were going to date in real life and get married and have babies and live happily ever after, I would 100% believe it. And I would be a little jealous of both of them. I'm a straight man, but I love Mike Coulter, man. Like, the guy is a big beefy dream cake, big dreamy beefcake. There we go. And like, he's just awesome. And he's, like I said, he's so imposing, but he's so cool. Like, and not like and Joe Cool, like, he's cool and chill and like very level-headed and calm. And Kristen is a little crazy. Like, she makes rash decisions and does crazy stuff and is all about her daughters. And she would take on a tiger, wrestle a bear for her kids. Like, she's got that crazy manic energy, and they just feed off each other. And at one point, the way the story's going, David and Kristen can't be together, and so David starts getting haunted by this demon that only looks like Kristen, and she's very seductive. Like, half the time she wears like a little schoolgirl outfit. So like, it's their way of having somebody, or having like basically the devil screw with this priest who is trying to, foil all of the devil's plans. And it's really great. You've got Kurt Fuller plays therapist Kurt Boggs. Kurt Fuller's been in like everything. He was Woody on Psych, and he's hilarious. Like, here, a lot of the time he's more dramatic, but he still has, his funny lines. He's great. There's Andrea Martin, who plays Sister Andrea. She is hilarious. Like, she can see demons. She can see things that are wrong that nobody else can see. And she reacts to them, and she kind of doesn't give a shit that people can't see it. Like, she does crazy stuff, and just it doesn't bother her that other people don't believe her. And she's fantastic. She was just on season 3 of Only Murders in the Building. She's a lot of fun. man, I can gush and gush and gush about the show, and I wish um, somebody else on the podcast had seen it, because it would be great to talk about it with them. Unfortunately, nobody has. So a lot of my reactions and thoughts and stuff are kind of trapped in my head, and I would like them to come out in a conversation. So, I'm doing my best, but I can't remember everything. I just can tell you that it's a fantastic show. If you have Paramount Plus, go watch the whole thing. If you have Netflix, watch the first 3 seasons. If you watch it and fall in love with it, find a petition online. People are still trying to get this thing renewed somewhere else, to get it made. The way that it ends, there's no reason they can't keep going. There's no reason, even though it has an ending that ties things up in a nice little bow. Part of that bow is frayed. There's holes in the um, in the armor, and so there's ways this can keep going for sure, and it would become an interesting show in the new place they put it. Um, so, like I said, watch it if you love it. Find a petition. It probably won't do anything. I've been parts of shows that have petitioned before. It rarely makes a difference. The last one that I saw that worked was Manifest, which was honestly a horrible, horrible show and shouldn't have been renewed and picked up, but it got renewed and picked up. So, anything is possible. The biggest problem that I could think of is this is a really niche show. It's a horror or horror adjacent. It's not for everybody. It's certainly adult. They don't shy away from profanity. Um, one of the demons, I'm pretty sure you saw his demon junk because he's naked. So like it's definitely, M for mature, and on the streaming services is, it's rated R. Like it's not for everybody, which, maybe doesn't help, but again, worth watching for sure if you're not a hardcore, like it has to be drama or it has to be comedy, because it is a little silly, and it plays with the whole idea of good versus evil and what that means. And evil isn't necessarily, I don't want to say bad, but it's like evil in this is kind of silly sometimes and funny and kind of doofy, and it just works. Like I don't know what else to say. It definitely, if you watch the first season, it starts a little heavier in the first season than where it ends up at the end of the third season and fourth season. Like it definitely lightens up as it goes. But it's really a great watch. So I would say give it a go, and just enjoy it, and look for the things that you like. And if you've already watched it, feel free to comment and tell us what you liked about it or what you didn't like about it if you stopped watching it for some reason. But hopefully, like I said, hopefully people like it. I would love to see it get picked up, or if they did something like Psych did, where maybe they make a movie every couple of years, just, a fun get together. Because that's the other thing too. You see this cast off screen and they like each other, like they get along. The creators get along with the characters, or sorry, the actors. There's a very family feel to it, even behind the scenes, and I think that's really special. And I think, um, they could come back and do a little bottle episode that's an hour and a half long or 2 hours long or whatever, and make it entertaining, and then close that one up. And then if they come back in 2 or 3 years and do it again, you can do that. Just like I said, like Psych did. Psych has made 3 or 4 movies now, and there's talks that they're working on another one. So, um, of kind of a similar situation. So, I would love to see that happen. So, yeah, give it a watch. All right. So next up, the only other thing I watched that I'm going to talk about this week, since I'm by myself and we're kind of in this horror kind of trend. Longlegs dropped on digital, so you can rent or buy it. It's not streaming anywhere yet, so if you want to watch it, you have to pay for it if you didn't see it in the theater. But I have been waiting for this. I said, screw it, and I bought it. I almost watched it a second time tonight before I recorded, but I watched it last night for the first time. And it was great. Like it was really, really good, and it was not what I was expecting. For this one, I would expect to be pretty spoilery too. So if you haven't seen it, pause, go rent it, give it a watch. It's kind of at that stupid point where renting it is $20, but buying it's 25. So if you think there's a chance that you might watch it even more than once, just buy it. It's a $5 difference at that point. Or wait for it to stream, but and I know the spoilers are out there. It's been out in the theaters and came back. It did very well in the theaters, and for good reason, but it's worth the money to spend on buying it, especially like I said, if you're going to rewatch it or if you're going to watch it with a few people. Like I try to think of that as going to the movies. Like if I had a movie that I wanted to buy and it's $25, but me and my three kids going to the movies would cost $30, buying it on streaming makes as much sense as it does going to the theater to see it. So just my own rationale. But anyways, this movie opens up. It definitely has I guess, nostalgic feel, but it takes place, the opening scene takes place somewhere. I don't know if it ever says, but it feels like 70s maybe. And it's a little girl. She's home, seems like she's home by herself. A car pulls up in the driveway. She puts on her snow clothes, goes out in the driveway. This creepy person, all dressed in white, walks up to her and starts talking to her and says something like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And I have my long legs on, and then bends down and it just has this creepy ass, just absolute terrifying face and says something, and then it cuts away. So you get your first look, like really quick glimpse at Longlegs, who is the serial killer that this movie is about, played by Nicolas Cage. Uh, I will say that this was a phenomenal performance by Nicolas Cage. In almost no way is he recognizable. His voice isn't really recognizable. Like all the things that make Nicolas Cage are almost stripped away in this, and he does a great job playing this very disturbing character. So what we do now is we jump forward, uh, looks like maybe 20, 15, 20 years, somewhere in there. What is interesting, they kind of show you the era that you're in by inside somebody's house. There's a picture of Bill Clinton on the wall. And I've seen this on a few shows. And growing up, I do not remember somebody having a picture of Ronald Reagan or a picture of Bill Clinton or a picture of George Bush on their wall. But I've seen it in movies before. And I think it must be a way to either I'm wrong and people actually did this, which is crazy to me. I don't know why you would have a president's picture in your house. But uh or it's a way to establish timeline, which makes a little more sense. So this is Clinton era, 90s, and Maika Monroe is a um basically like day one FBI agent. She's out of the academy, she's going out in the field, she gets paired up with this young guy as her partner. They're on the lookout for something crazy. It's a serial killer. I don't know if they know it's a serial killer yet, but they know some, like, a dad is kind of off his nut, but they don't know where he is. So they go to this neighborhood. They're looking. She steps out of the car, and her partner goes to a door to knock and ask some questions. And while he's doing that, you can see her kind of look around, and she looks a little dazed. And she basically, she knows. She said, "That's the house over there." So it's a different house. And she said, "We should call for backup." And her partner's like, "I don't want to call for backup because why would we call for backup on just a hunch on your first day? It doesn't make any sense, blah, blah, blah." So he goes to the door, knocks on the door. The door opens and he is immediately shot in the face. And you're off to the races. So your tension immediately piles up. This house is kind of empty. It's being renovated, it looks like. So everything feels a little constricted. And she's trying to find this dad who killed his family. And at the end of the episode, she gets there. No, sorry, not the end of the episode, but the end of the scene, she gets there to him and she arrests him. And so now she's on like the higher ups radar. Like she's very smart. Blair Underwood plays her boss, and he's great in this. Like I feel like I don't see Blair Underwood a lot, but he does a really good job in this as her boss, who um, tries to listen to her and accept her and take her at face value, even though like some of the stuff she doesn't make sense. What we come to find out is at some point in her training or career, They do basically a psychic test on her. So they, put her in a room, they show a bunch of pictures, and they say, "Hey, I picked a number between 1 and 100. Um, is it, just guess the number." And it's all while these pictures are flashing. She guesses number, doesn't tell you if it got it right, whatever. It flashes to her in the car with her now boss, Blair Underwood, and he's like, he says something about how it's amazing that she got 8 right. And she goes, "Yeah, but I got 8 wrong." And he's like, "Yeah, that's still 8 out of 16 that you got right on a scale of 0 to 100. That's incredible." So the implication there is that she's, at least a hair psychic, like she's got some kind of some powers. And so the film goes on, she starts studying this case, and we come to find out that this serial killer Longlegs, who writes in cryptograms like the Zodiac killer did, and all this, he is an interesting serial killer because he, as far as they can tell, doesn't actually kill anyone on his own. What happens is he seems to interact with a family, and after he's interacted with that family in some way, they start to turn on each other, and effectively the dad kills everybody and then kills himself. Like, that's how it seems to go down. Um, as the story starts to go on, we start to realize that um, this Longlegs has some sort of relationship with our main character. Her name is Lee. And we don't know what it is. We don't know why it works, whatever. We just know that it's there. And he is, at some point, he's basically communicating with her through his letters and his notes, and kind of letting her know. It's almost like he wants to get caught. Like any serial killer, like they think they're super clever and whatever. So she's going through this, trying to figure all this out. The longer it goes on, the more we start to figure out not only what her connection is with him, but also um, how he's doing what he's doing. He leads them to this barn, and she goes into this barn, and they dig up um, this coffin in the ground. You open it up, and it looks like a body. And as they zoom in, you see that it's just a doll, but it's a doll that looks like the daughter of the people that lived in that house when the father killed everyone. They take it to the mortuary, or the medical examiner, and he starts looking at the doll, cracks open the doll, looks at the pieces inside the doll, and the only thing in the head is the silver ball that doesn't seem mechanical in any way. But what's interesting is he puts a microphone up to it, and it starts to kind of emit this hum that really affects Lee, our main character. This coroner, who has really no other stake in the story, he's just in this one scene. He's creepy as balls. Like, he's really like infatuated, impressed with his doll, um, in a really weird way. It is definitely a trip just for this one scene, and it kind of adds to the tone of the show, or the movie. And I should say, like, when the movie starts, it feels like it's all about mood. Like, not a lot is happening in the beginning. You're kind of taking in the story and figuring stuff out, and who's who. Obviously, you're tracking down a murder, but you don't know what it is. If it's the serial killer or whatever, it's very moody, and there's not a lot of action, and it's not necessarily like actively pushing the plot forward really fast. But um, and I could see where some people, especially watching at home, um, might get a little turned off by it, because again, it seems like it's all about mood. And there was that movie that we all watched, Skinamarink, which was the dumbest fucking movie ever made. But that movie was all about the mood, and it was supposed to be about the way it made you feel and remind you of when things were creepy when you were a little kid. Didn't do that for me. Didn't do that for Andrew. So, like, I was a little worried that that's all this movie was. Like, after all the hype, was it just like a mood thing? Like, is this actually scary, or is it just supposed to be dark and, disturbing or whatever? But rest assured, as it goes on, the story gets a lot tighter, the experiences get a little creepier, and it just races to the end in the last like 20 minutes. It's great. But anyways, so after this corner is talking about this doll, it's got this metal ball in its head. As the story moves on, we start to find out that every one of these families that has had this thing happen where the father basically kills everyone was given a doll at some point that looked exactly like their given daughter. And that's when Lee starts to put everything together. She starts to realize that these people's who are these people whose families are getting killed. The daughters all have a birthday on the 14th, and they are all killed, or they all have the murder happen within 6 days, either before or after of the birthday. As this goes on, funny enough, after talking about evil, we start to find out that this is, this character Longlegs is like a Satanist, like he's doing this, he believes that the devil's work, and we start to get these hints that there's more to it. Like there's this, maybe this is actually supernatural. Like it's weird because I did not, for whatever reason, pick up on the psychic thing being like a setup for more down the line. I just thought it was like, I don't know why, was only thinking of something, it as something they did. So the supernatural for me at the time was kind of out of the way. Like this was just an FBI investigation of a serial killer. I was thinking of something like Silence of the Lambs, which this got compared to a lot. But I was expecting basically no real supernatural elements, just evil people. But as the movie starts to go on, it starts to open up and give you more supernatural elements as it goes. And so what we come to find out, the reason that Longlegs is so infatuated with our main character is that she was that little girl in the opening scene. And he approached her and for whatever reason did not kill her the way that he killed or had her killed the way that everybody else was. And we don't know why yet. And so, as things go on, I'm trying to decide how much to give away or not give away here. I guess I'll try to stay a little spoiler free. Like I really want you to get the end. But it really, like, I think I messaged the group chat. Jen was the only one talking because she had seen Longlegs. I said I got like a half hour, 20 minutes left. I was saying I was starting to get into it. And she's like, "Oh, tell me what you think at the end." And all of a sudden, it's just like it just barrels to the end. Like it just picks up so much steam at the end. It starts to answer as many questions as it can without being too like just spoon fed. And it ends in an absolutely bonkers spot. And I really loved it. And so, I finished this movie. I don't know if I ever felt particularly scared, but I'm also not. The older I get, the more horror movies I watch. I don't find most horror movies scary. I just don't. They have good action, but the best ones are the ones that stick with you. They have something that kind of eats into you. And for me, what worked in this one was Nick Cage's character. When this was done, I read some, ending explained articles or whatever because I wanted to, just understand a little bit more about the process behind making the movie. The movie was written and directed by Osgood Perkins, who is the son of Anthony Perkins, who was the star of Psycho. So Osgood Perkins, and he was in Legally Blonde. He was her weird friend. But he wrote this movie, and it was really interesting because as the movie goes on, they never ever explain other than him saying in the opening scene, he's, "Oh, I got my long legs on," and he's weird, and you're like, okay. They never explain why his name is Longlegs, and Oz Perkins in his interview basically said, he's like, "I kind of liked how it was a creepy ass name." He's like, that's really, he's like, it felt like a nickname that a serial killer would give themselves in that era. And he didn't really feel like explaining it anymore. And as this interview goes on, you can see that, like, that opening scene, which was so about mood, it's kind of what Oz Perkins wrote. Like, there's a lot of things it was kind of like, I don't really feel like answering that. So I'm not going to waste time answering it. Leave that stuff open. And it all works. It's totally fine. He, in using Satanism in this movie as kind of the villain, he talks about how, you know, using the devil to in evil, like the devil is putting together this thing where he's trying to take over the world. In this show or in this movie, the idea of the devil is that he likes to take a small group of people and just ruin them because he can. Like, so, in evil, the devil's all about world domination. Here, he's just about, you know, kind of being a dick. Like, he just wants to cause problems for people, wreak havoc for people. And, he does that through Longlegs. It's really interesting. It's a really interesting take, and to read the interviews and see, just how much Osgood left out of the script so that, you just kind of had a mood, but also had this great character, again, with this great character work by Nicolas Cage. What was really interesting, there's some really creepy things that he says and does as Longlegs. And, in the interview, you come to find out that I don't know a lot about Nick Cage's childhood, but apparently his mom had some issues. I don't know how bad they were. I don't know if she was abusive or anything. I don't know. But what I do know is that he took a lot of things from his childhood and the way that his mother acted towards him and put them into this character. So there's this weird thing that he does a couple of different times where he like puts his hands over his head and does this cuckoo cuckoo thing, and it's really weird and creepy. And apparently that's something his mom did, so he put it into the movie, and it's creepy as balls. They don't explain why Longlegs is a Satanist in the first place. Why he's such a bad guy. He just is, and his face is all messed up, which is one of the things they talked about. Like when you first see Nicolas Cage's face in this movie, it's scary and creepy because it's not Nicolas Cage. Like he just doesn't look like Nicolas Cage. And they kind of explain it like he probably, if you look at it, was either a musician or a rocker, or at least wanted to be, who got too much plastic surgery done and, just looks weird. And then he wears the white makeup to look like, not quite as white as Kiss, but like, that kind of thing. So he was very much in potentially an 80s rock star, or at least somebody that loved rock. So you kind of get almost this Manson-like feel from him. But like overall, I mean, yes, the majority of the movie is a mood, but it has a story that moves along really well too. So you're not ever just like sitting there with this vibe and waiting for something to happen, and you're never left disappointed. I think if you, like I said, if you start it, and if at first it's a little or feels a little slower, just give it a little bit. Settle into the creepiness, let that kind of, wash over you as you start to watch it and take it in. This movie is almost the opposite in every way of evil. There's, the closest thing you have to a familial bond is Blair Underwood and Lee, Maika Monroe, kind of getting closer together because, he's kind of a mentor and she's learning from him. But as the movie goes on, some cracks form in that. We meet her mom has issues. Like that relationship is weird and creepy. Like that one doesn't really work. There's a couple of other little cameos in there. Kiernan Shipka plays a creepy ass character for like one scene. And acting wise, it might be the best work that Kiernan Shipka's done. It's just like whatever Oz Perkins did, or however he directs and however he works with these people to draw these characters out of them, he did a phenomenal job. Um, Lee's mom is played by Alicia Witt, who I always remember from Mr. Holland's Opus way back in the day. She's been around forever now, but she plays the mom in this, and she's got a storyline that's worth a damn. Like it's just everything is there for a reason. It's not a huge cast. I think the budget for this wasn't too bad. It was made for under $10 million and ultimately worldwide grossed $100 million. So kind of like we talked about in last week's episode, this is a success. Like this is a horror movie that was weird, that didn't have all the bells and whistles that some other movies had, doesn't have a huge budget, and it did great. Like $100 million for a movie like this that is rated R, that you can't, kids can't go see, all this stuff to still make a good chunk of money, basically make 10 times what you paid to make it, is great. And I think it was amazing. I would tell anybody that loves horror films to check this one out. It really gets in your skin. Nick Cage is, like I said, a very different Nicolas Cage than I have ever seen. It's some of his best work. He is creepy as balls. Like I don't know that I would ever call him scary. Like he doesn't terrify me necessarily. To be fair, like if I met this character in person, yeah, I'd probably crap my pants. Like he is scary, but like as far as like a horror movie goes, I wasn't, you know, terrified, but like it works. So if you have $25, just buy it. If you have $20, rent it. If you don't, wait for it to stream, watch it as soon as it streams. I did try to be spoiler free, so hopefully, if you watch this whole thing, I didn't give too much away so that when you do watch it, you're surprised by the ending. If you have seen it, again, just like Evil, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought, of the overall progression of the movie. Let us know what you thought of the end. I'm going to say for the comments, maybe you don't have to be spoiler free. Maybe just say you're going to spoil it if you're going to throw in a spoiler of any kind. But I think it's really great. It's just a great movie. Like from a movie making standpoint, it's really interesting. It's visually very smart. It definitely has a visual tone, has that 90s feel to it. They capture all of that. And I'd love to hear what people think. Like I said, I know that it did well. On IMDb, it's a 7. On Rotten Tomatoes, it got an 86% from the critics. Funny enough, it only got a 60% from the audience. So I'm sort of curious about this. Oh, updates to the score. The audience score is now the popcorn meter. Ooh, I don't know what that means. The tomato meter is the critics. The popcorn meter is the audience, for whatever that means. Yeah, I mean, it looks like the negative critiques are comparing it to Silence of the Lambs and Seven, which is fair. It's a serial killer movie. I don't think Silence of the Lambs or Seven are quite the same comparison because they're not supernatural. So honestly, to me, that actually makes them a little scarier. Like when you see something where there's a real serial killer, something that could actually happen in real life, something that could go down in a real way. To me, that's some of the scariest stuff you'll find. And that works really well. Some of the other complaints are what I said, like it starts off slow. It's not fast paced. So you've got to be willing to dig in. Like I knew I wanted to see this movie. I knew what I was going to get out of Nicolas Cage's, or I knew what I was supposed to be getting out of Nicolas Cage's performance. I did get it, but I only knew what I heard. But yeah, it does start off slow. So be ready for that. Just be ready for it to start slow. Appreciate what it's doing. Appreciate the move, so the mood, and enjoy it. It is not as high tension as Silence of the Lambs. It's not as high tension as Seven, until the end. Like I said, the last 20 minutes are an absolute steamroller. It's not about the jump scares. Like this is a smarter movie than that. So, go in with that mindset, push through the slow beginning, and I think you'll really like it. Like it really is good, and like I said, the acting is top notch from everybody. Like Maika Monroe, she is a little bit of a scream queen right now. She did It Follows, she did Watcher. She's got a few like kind of horror films under her belt now, and I think she's good for that. I think she's going to be in a sequel to It Follows, which if you don't remember what that one is, it's literally where a murder demon is basically an STD. Like if you want to survive, you have to have sex with somebody else to pass this demon on. I think I talked about it last year. Solid horror flick also, but she's got chops, man. She's doing really good. I think she's got a good career ahead of her. Oh, the sequel is called They Follow, not It Follows. So she'll be in that. But yeah, I would just say check out Longlegs if you're into that moody horror stuff. I think it'll be really good for you. Again, if you want something a little campier, a little more fun that you can stick with for a while, check out Evil. I really love it. I wish that it had made it. It's a 7.8 on Rotten Tomatoes right now. There are some places that had it as high as a 9 or even a 10 in some cases. So it did really well. And for what it's worth, there are exactly 50 episodes of Evil. They are 1-hour episodes. So, you can take a little time watching it as we, move forward towards Halloween. So that's all I've got. So I think at least Lauren is back next week. I think Andrew might be out for a few more episodes. But we'll get back. I want to watch The Killer, which is the John Woo remake of his own film. I'm a big John Woo fan from my high school, college days. So that'll be fun to watch. And then I think The Fall Guy drops on Peacock also on Friday before we record. So, and that's the extended cut. So I'll talk about that too. Me and my family have been watching Time Bandits on Apple TV. So I'll talk about that a little bit next week. And we will go from there. So with that, I will say thank you everybody for watching or listening. Have a great week, and we will see you next time.